Fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
What can you do to help families now?
Well, I think the first thing we have to start doing is stop spending that kind of money. We had already done 2 pandemic reliefs. This came on top of it. We can't do that kind of crazy stuff. It only adds to the inflation. I think it begins by winning this election and getting people like that out of office.
Of course, the senator who has never run anything at all but his mouth would know nothing about helping people and being there for people when they are in trouble. The senator has obviously resorted to lying, cheating, and trying to steal. Senator, how gullible do you really think Florida voters are? Senator, you're repeating yourself again. We've seen this show before. Socialists, crazy, Marxist, silly.
But which one
that must be on your list for your talking points. Look, the senator can play national security expert all he wants. I know he needs that for his next presidential run.
She's never passed a single bill. She's been in Congress for over half a decade. She's never passed a bill, not PPP, not anything, not a single bill she's passed has ever become law. I'm proud of the fact we saved millions of jobs. I'm proud of the fact we did it in a bipartisan way.
That's not true. I know the senator, look, and I'm really disappointed in you, Marco Rubio, because I think there was a time when you did not lie in order to win. I don't know what happened to you. You know that is not true. My first term in the United States House, I passed legislation to help law enforcement officers with mental health programs. Your first term in the Senate, you voted to turn Medicare into, basically to abolish it. You've done nothing to help address gun violence and get dangerous weapons out of the hands of dangerous people. Florida, after Parkland, after you made promises that you had no intentions on keeping to the parents of Parkland, Florida passed legislation raising the age to have an assault weapon. Our primary responsibility is the safety of Floridians. And Senator, 24 years in elected office, and you have not yet risen to that occasion.
Nicely done. Nicely done. You know, Val Demings, everybody, Val Demings. Former Orlando police chief, congresswoman for the last 5 years. Half a decade she's been there. Half a decade. That's 5 years. Rubio's been there 21 years. 21 years he's been in Congress, and he has produced nothing for the state of Florida. Absolutely nothing. In fact, the state of Florida was able to raise the age of purchase for a semi-automatic machine gun, a weapon, whatever you want to call it. Oh, yeah. Now all the gun nuts are, it's not a machine gun. Okay. I think you understand what we're talking about here, and refused to raise the age to own a semi-automatic long gun to 21 years old. And Florida has seen a number of mass shootings, and this man does nothing. You know, I will say this, like monsters like the Ron Death Sentence, who wants to be the new Donald. We'll just call him the Ronald, okay? At least he looks like he enjoys being a prick, okay? He looks like he's, good at it. He looks like he's having the best time when he uses people as props and sends people who are in Texas, goes and picks them up and brings them to Martha's Vineyard. He looks like he's enjoying himself, okay? What you have here with, Rubio is a guy who sucks at sucking. And that's why he lost the debate. There was absolutely no substance on his part last night because he doesn't show up for work. So he has nothing to point to and say, I did that, or I'm responsible for, or I helped. No. Because Republicans are against everything that would help, including disaster relief, including raising the age to 21. You know, the age in Florida is 21 to own a semi-automatic because Florida changed it. Florida did. The senator from Florida had nothing to do with anything that would prevent or stop. And you know what his excuse was last night? Well, it's great to pass laws, but only, the only people that are going to follow the laws are law-abiding people. So why have any laws, Marco? Why have any? Why have, voter registration? Why have voter ID? Why have any laws at all with regards to voting? Why have any laws at all with regards to homeowners insurance? Why have any laws at all about DUI? You see what a dead end that argument actually is? But it feels good to the angry. It feels good to the grievance infested. It feels good to the people that go, yeah. If you pass laws, then only, law-abiding people, the criminals are still going to be. That's right. That's right. They will. That's exactly right. So why have any laws? I mean, it's so stupid. This was such a ridiculous thing. But I mean, she let him have it on the gun issue. She let him have it on the abortion issue. Because he was very non-committal on the abortion. Very non-committal. Just saying. But, that's because he doesn't know where he stands until he finds out where he sits. Meaning, is he in the minority or is he in the majority? Right? Where does he sit? Where does he sit? That's going to determine where he stands. Very sad. Very sad. No character, no principles, no convictions, none whatsoever. But she let him have it on the gun issue. You know why? She's law enforcement.
Why are these people going out there and massacring people?
This is the same.
Because a lot of people own AR-15s and they don't kill everyone.
I understand, sir, but I want to go to Congresswoman Demings for 60 seconds.
People who are the families of victims of gun violence just heard that. And they're asking themselves, what in the hell did he just say? Senator, you used the Pulse nightclub shooting as your inspiration to run again for the Senate in 2016. Pulse is in my district. And yet, you've done nothing to help address gun violence and get dangerous weapons out of the hands of dangerous people. Florida, after Parkland, after you made promises that you had no intentions on keeping to the parents of Parkland, Florida passed legislation raising the age to have an assault weapon, passed red flag laws that we've seen 7,000 plus instances where they've been used now. Our primary responsibility is the safety of Floridians. And Senator, 24 years in elected office, and you have not yet risen to that occasion. And then when asked about it, you say something that makes no sense.
It's true. 24 years. I stand corrected. What'd I say? 21? 24. 24 long years of nothingness, of absolute nothingness. The only thing this man knows how to run is his mouth, as she clearly and concisely and distinctly said. That's why he needs to sip the water in the midst of, running for president and addressing the nation in a debate, rebuttal. Or a State of the Union rebuttal. Wasn't that it? Yeah, it was a State of the Union rebuttal where they featured the new rising star in the Republican Party, little Marco Rubio, who had to, because he has cotton mouth. You understand that? That's what the deal is. And I don't know if it's cotton mouth from Adderall, if it's cotton mouth from crack or cocaine or marijuana. I have no idea. He just, dry mouth. Same as Trump. Dry mouth. All the time. All the time. I don't know what they're doing, snorting, smoking, drinking. I have no idea. I don't care. I just know that these people use people as props. These people have no interest in solving real problems. These people manufacture problems that we don't have and then point to the problems that we don't have and say we can solve it, but never put a plan to solve their imaginary problem like litter boxes in schools. I mean, it's so sad. It's so sad how hard he sucked last night at sucking.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
How long will you watch people being gunned down in 1st grade, 4th grade, high school, college, church, synagogue, a grocery store, a movie theater, a mall, and a nightclub,
Congresswoman,
and do nothing.
Oh, man. See, Marco was way above his level of incompetence last night. Yeah. He needs to, stick to live TV and water bottles. He can't take on Val Demings. He can't take on law enforcement. He can't take on somebody who actually gives a damn about this state, because he doesn't. And it clearly showed. You know, when I play you this next clip, this is really short, but it's sweet. Sweet, baby, sweet. Okay, this is Marco Rubio's explanation for why we can't have nice things in Florida. I swear to God. This is Marco Rubio's explanation for why we can't have drop boxes, okay? Honestly.
That's a method of voting that doesn't advantage one group or another. There's danger involved in drop boxes. People need to think about it. Okay, imagine someone decides, oh, there's a drop box. I'm just going to put some explosive in it and blow it up and burn all of those ballots, and now those votes don't count at all. Okay, there is something, with elections, there are two things that are very important. Number one, the count has to be accurate. The votes have to be counted accurately. But the other is there has to be public confidence. The public has to believe that the elections were fair.
So that's why Florida can't have drop boxes, because they will be attacked by people wielding explosives. That's why we can't have nice things in Florida, because the people in Florida are so deranged that they would put explosives in the drop box, something that has never happened, ever, anywhere in this country. But Marco's pretty sure that if it was going to happen, it would happen here in Florida. And so this is why we can't have drop boxes. Now, why is this even close? Okay? Again, why are these elections even close? These are people who have been in power for years and years, decades and decades, have produced absolutely no result. And then when you have an election where the most people ever voted due to things like mail-in balloting and drop boxes and drive-through voting and the whole panoply of ideas that we had in this country to accommodate voters in the midst of a pandemic worked. And we had more people show up and vote in the last election than ever before. Why is it that Republicans are against it? Because they didn't win. That's why. When the people show up, when the people come, when the people vote, they lose. And they know that. And that's why Idiot Boy was way above his incompetence level last night, when his only explanation for doing away with drop boxes in the state of Florida was because a Florida man is going to put explosives in it, and you need confidence in the voting. What the hell non sequitur was that? How is this even close? How? So let me just tell you this. Here in Florida, Val Demings is about 4 points behind Marco Rubio. If you are interested in polling snapshots in time, I'm not. I mean, there are some polls that are just so obviously, in favor of this or that, like 98% of Americans want background checks before you can buy an Uzi. Things like that. Like 75% of Americans want the right to choose for themselves or their daughters or their granddaughters, or their husbands want it for their wives. You know what I'm saying? There are certain polls that, you can't deny that there is a preference for a policy or not. But in these voting polls, in these election polls, don't even pay attention. Just, this is a close race in Florida, and it's all going to come down to turnout, which is why the Republicans don't want to make it easy for you to vote. They don't want it to be something that is just you fill it out, you drop it off. No, that's too easy. That's too easy. And somebody could explode the drop. I mean, honestly, this is so bizarre and unacceptable from a United States senator to suggest to you that in 24 years he has come up with absolutely nothing that would prevent school shootings or synagogue shootings or church shootings or bar shootings or supermarket shootings or high school shootings or nightclub shootings. He's come up with no ideas, none whatsoever. because, you know, only law-abiding people will follow the law. So why make any? And he's a freaking lawmaker. That is his job description. And then when you see that everything that we did to make the election, easier, everything that we did for Americans so that they could vote in the midst of a pandemic has been taken away, it's only because they lost and not because there are exploding drop boxes. It's just like ridiculous, really. And so she brought up about how, we have to protect our voting rights.
Will you accept results of the 2022 election?
Let me start here, if I may. My mother, the maid and a janitor, worked long, hard days, but I can never remember a time they did not vote. If our car wasn't working, they would pay somebody a couple of dollars to take them to the polls. Why on earth would we try to stop them from voting? They were able to vote because of our democracy, the wonderful system of government that we have. No, it is not perfect. But our system of government is what allows us to be here tonight. We have to do everything within our power to uphold the Constitution, protect the rule of law, and protect our democracy, and protect each person's, Republican, Democrats, and independents, right to vote. That's what I did as a police officer and a police chief. I took an oath that I would protect and serve, defend the Constitution, not just for people who looked like me or the richest of the rich, but for all people.
I mean, so the conversation actually has to be had about voting rights and will you accept the results of an election and why can't we have drop boxes and what is your beef against, banning gerrymandering, or what's your beef against, people who have had their voting rights restored. Oh, so that's another. So Ron death sentence. This is why I bring up the Ronald. Okay, the Ronald, as you know, created a voting police force. Seriously, to patrol people who may attempt to vote illegally, right? Which doesn't happen. You know it doesn't happen. It only happens up in the villages where the crazy Republicans go and they vote twice, right? They vote twice because they don't think that anybody is looking, and they're criminals up in the villages, and they will do anything for Donald Trump. The Village is a crazy retirement community in the middle of Florida in Ocala, okay? It's nuts. It's nuts. It's the largest STD reporting district in the state of Florida. These are retirees, okay, who have nothing to do but drink all day and give each other STDs. This is what they do. It's a nice life, right? Wait till they find out that the Republican Party wants to do away with their Medicare, which they use to treat their STDs, and their Social Security, which they use to pay their mortgages on their condos and villas in the villages. But they voted twice. That's where the fraud was. Nothing about that. No, I'm going to show you something.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
You remember this from August?
The state of Florida has charged and is in the process of arresting 20 individuals across the state for voter fraud. These folks voted illegally in this case, and there's going to be other grounds for other prosecutions in the future. They are disqualified from voting because they've been convicted of either murder or sexual assault, and they do not have the right to vote. They have been disenfranchised under Florida law. We also have folks who are voting who are illegal aliens that are not citizens of the United States. And as we know, in Florida's Constitution, the only people eligible to vote are U.S. citizens.
Okay, he made that last part up. So, and the audio problem was his, not ours. So if you want to complain about the scratchiness of it, it's because, Catman over there, he used a bad mic. But you remember that, right? Where Ron death sentence, the Ronald, was very excited to tell you that he had arrested people who voted illegally, making you believe that they had voted illegally, knowing that they were not allowed to vote. And of course, what we saw was that they had been sent, by the state of Florida voter registration cards, and that the state of Florida told them that they were eligible to vote. Well, that was how many years ago now that they voted illegally after they received voter registration cards from the state of Florida and paid their debt to society? That was years and years ago. So if you believe that these people willingly broke election laws, then I have a flight you need to board for Martha's Vineyard, because you don't belong here any more than, people that he would ship to Martha's Vineyard do. So I'm going to show you something. The Tampa Bay Times, the Tampa Bay newspaper, actually filed a Freedom of Information Act request for the police body cam footage of these arrests. And guess what? They got the body cam footage of these police arrests. Now, these police officers, you'll see, they didn't even know why they were arresting these people, except that they had a warrant for their arrest, something about voting illegally. And these people, you can see in this video that they are just literally shocked. They had no idea that what they were doing was illegal, partly because there was no way that the state of Florida actually told them they were doing anything illegal. And also, after we passed a constitutional amendment, Amendment 4, in Florida, saying felons could now be restored to the voting rolls once they paid their dues to society, they were eligible to vote yet again. They believed that they were eligible to vote yet again. So they had no idea. So they did all the paperwork. They registered to vote. They checked the box off that they had been previously, that they were felons and that they had served their time, blah, blah, blah. Well, the state of Florida sent them voter registration cards. And so they voted. And then they got arrested.
So apparently, I guess you have a warrant?
This is the cops.
For what? I'm not sure.
For voter
I'm not
stuff,
sure.
man.
For voters.
It's what it is. I think the agents with FDLE talked to you last week about some voter fraud, voter stuff, when you weren't supposed to be voting, maybe.
I didn't.
So
What are they talking about?
that's
man?
what we're not the case agents, but what you got to do, they have reduced your bond quite a bit. It's 2 felony charges for voter fraud, but they've reduced it to $500 bonds. So it's $1,000 total.
Oh my God, man! What?
So, yes, sir. So unfortunately, right now we're gonna have to take you to jail, but you got a bond right away. You don't have to go to first appearance, nothing like that. So
a bond?
I didn't do it. Okay. So, ma'am, we have a warrant for your arrest.
For what?
For voter fraud.
Good. How are you, sir?
Right.
Oh my God. Hold on.
Wait.
Let me tell my husband.
We're telling him. He's right here.
Right here. So if you could put your hands behind your back, please.
Oh my God.
Do not move.
Ultimately, ma'am, you have a warrant. Okay. The warrant. Hold on. Listen. I know you caught off guard. I understand. Right. So you have a warrant. It's for voter fraud. Okay. Hear me out. It's an ROR. You know what an ROR is?
Oh my God.
You go in, you get booked, and then they're going to release you from booking.
Released on your own recognizance. I mean, you can see these people are just freaked out and shocked about this because the state of Florida told them that they could vote by sending them a voter's registration card after they said that they were felons but believed that they had their rights restored. And the state of Florida agreed and sent them voter registration cards, and then they voted. And years later, they're being arrested by the Ronald's little, fake police force. Okay, there's 12 cops on this police force. He literally is sending the police, and the police can't even believe it either. The police are standing there going, apparently there's a warrant for your arrest. What for? It's the voter thing. What do you mean the voter thing? Well, it's some voter thing. We don't really know how you could, be breaking the law after we passed a constitutional amendment restoring the rights of felons to vote. And you got a voter registration card from the state of Florida. So we have no idea what you did that was illegal, partly because there is no way that should be illegal in the state of Florida. Oh, my God. Here's some more people.
unfortunately, you got a warrant out, okay?
Warrant?
Yes, sir. Want to put your hands behind your back for me?
I guess you're not allowed to vote. Well, no, but when
no one ever really explained all that much to me. I told the guys when they came out here that I was at the driver's license place, getting my new driver's license. Yeah. The guy there asked me, he says, hey, can you vote? He says, hey, are you registered to vote? I said, no, I'm a convicted felon. I'm pretty sure I can. He goes, well, are you still on probation? I said, no. I got off probation like a month ago. He goes, well, then you can probably vote. Hey, just fill out the form, and if you can vote, then they'll let you give you a card. If you can't vote, then you won't. And I'm like, all right.
And there's your defense. You know what I'm saying?
That
sounds like a loophole to me.
Well, we can hope.
Can you give this back to me? Yes, sir. Will do.
It's because of the sex offender thing that you can't vote. So, I mean, the warrant is for the voting deal, I guess, but...
I guess.
I guess it's kind of all tied together. Yeah, I guess they're doing like some kind of roundup thing or something for all the ones that were within the county.
Yeah, I had to do one of these this morning already.
Oh, really?
Do you know the statute for them?
It doesn't say it on the...
Let's walk over to my car,
Why is y'all doing this now and this happened years ago?
I don't know. I have no idea, man.
No one knows. This happened years ago. Why are you doing this now? I have no idea, man. Do you know the statute? No, not really. Do you? No, but I had to do one of those this morning. Really? What'd you write down? I don't know. These people literally received voter registration cards in the mail. One of them went to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get a new driver's license and was sent an updated voter registration card. So that's two times the state told her she could vote.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Our democracy is at stake when you define democracy as integrity of the vote. They want to suppress the vote. They've been doing that for a long time. They want to nullify the results of an election. They're even proposing that after an election, if they don't like the results, they will change the rules that would have governed that election retroactively. So you have to recognize that they are undermining our democracy. And if people think that can be casual about that, they just don't realize how serious the Republicans are about undermining our democracy.
They are very serious about undermining our democracy. I mean, that is what the independent legislature theory is, which will be argued in this term of the United States Supreme Court, a made-up theory that says if we don't like the results of the election, then the legislature can actually say, we're going to vote for a different result. The legislature, not the voters. And the reason they say that they have the right to do that is because you elected the legislature. So be very forewarned about electing the legislature, because they want to take away your voice. First Amendment, my arse, okay? Disney, punish them. Don't say gay is bad. Punish Disney. Ban books. CRT is being taught in school. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Ban it. I mean, this is really, and drop boxes. Oh, you can't have those because somebody might put explosives in a drop box. And then what are you going to do? Ridiculous. These are ridiculous people with ridiculous explanations for the ridiculous things they do. And you're watching these people get arrested by his goon squad, by the Ronald's little voter goon squad, who don't even understand why they're arresting these people all these years later, based on the governor deciding that they should be arrested, knowing that in the villages where everyone votes Republican, people voted twice. And what was their punishment? Oh, some of them had to do community service. and others of them elected instead to take a civics class. That's like going to comedy driving school, okay? It's not exactly, 5 years in prison and a $200,000 fine or $2,000 or $1,000 for this guy over here. Oh, 2 counts of voter fraud. They reduced the bond to $500 each count, and so now you're going to be charged $1,000 to go home. What the... Yeah, there's a 2-tiered justice system, one for Republicans and one for Democrats. Let's just say what it is. This is ridiculous. You got the biggest criminal in the world sitting in a deposition right now. Sitting in a deposition. The former president of the United States has, I don't know how many, I can't even count them anymore. How many live criminal cases for fraud, tax fraud, for insurance fraud, for election fraud, for trying to overturn the results of the election, for trying to overthrow the government, insurrection, the whole nine, plus the civil crap. Okay. And the civil stuff has to do with criminal behavior. The civil case that he's being deposed in today at Mar-a-Lago has to do with raping E. Jean Carroll in the 90s in a dressing room in New York City and then lying about it. Well, when the president was president, he had his attorney general, Bill Barr, say, okay, well, you want to sue the president for defamation because he's saying that he didn't rape you in the 1990s. The underlying crime is rape, but you want to sue him? Well, guess what I'm going to do as the Attorney General of the United States? I'm going to be Trump's lawyer, and I'm going to, which you can't do, but he did. I'm going to substitute, instead of you suing Trump, I'm going to substitute the United States of America because he is the United States of America. He's the president. And he did that. He did that. An appeals court, Second Circuit Court of Appeals, found that was bull crap, okay? You can't substitute the United States of America for rape, for a rape accusation. It can't happen. And so they rejected that. And then it went to the D.C. Circuit because that is where Donald Trump was being president at the time. And they haven't decided the matter yet. So Donald Trump, his lawyer, Alina Habba, said, well, this will all go away once the D.C. Circuit weighs in. So why are you deposing him? We don't want him deposed. And the trial court judge, lots of judges involved in Trump's life aren't there. Yeah. Normal people don't have this many judges involved in their lives. But the trial judge for this defamation case, Judge Kaplan, told Donald Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, yeah, well, the underlying thing is a rape charge. It's a crime. And so that has nothing to do with him being president of the United States. And plus, he's not president anymore. So we're going to let him go to the deposition. And that is why Trump is being sworn and deposed today at Mar-a-Lago, at his convenience, at his, a vacation home or a hotel or golf club, whatever the hell that beach resort is. I have no idea. Lots of lawyers in those guys' lives, but they're very worried about people that get voter registration cards twice in the mail. Twice. Breaking the law. I mean, ridiculous. Bob in Oklahoma.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
I still say nurses rock. I've got a point. I want to make a point. And that is that if you follow the logic of Mr. Rubio, then the American people will be wholly dependent upon the criminals to come after all these people at the top of the ladder that are legally killing everybody off and ruining everybody's lives. If you follow his logic, that's where we're headed.
Well, his logic is illogical in that we should have no laws, according to him, because only law-abiding people follow the laws and the criminals never do. So why even bother to be a legislature? Why even bother to have a legislature? Why even bother to be it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous logic.
Fascists are dangerous.
Yes, they are.
And they shouldn't be trusted.
No, well, that's a no-brainer. My question is, why are these elections even close? Why is Herschel Walker literally Herschel Walker, a guy who did violence to every single woman that ever crossed his path, a guy who held a gun to his baby mom's head, a guy whose own son, who is a conservative, says that they had to move 6 times because Herschel Walker is so violent and threatened his family 6 separate times, so that they constantly had to move to get away from his threats of violence. Why are these people even close to holding the power of the awesome power of a United States senator? Why is this even a question for Americans? Something has gone so screwy in people's brains in this here country that it's a close race between Val Demings and Marco Rubio, who's been there for 24 years and done absolutely nothing, delivered zero, zilch, goose egg, squat, donut, nada, nothing to the American people except wars and tax cuts for the very wealthy. And now they're going to stand there and point to the trillions of dollars they ran up on our dime. I mean, the things they never paid for. They had the House, they had the Senate, they had the presidency, and they charged up $20 trillion worth of debt. Now they're saying, well, we have to stop spending money like that. But they do still want to make those 2017 tax cuts permanent, which would make inflation worse. Why? Because when there's a low supply of goods and services, especially goods, which is the case now, and there's a lot of demand, you get inflation. So they want to give more money to the richest Americans so that, inflation can go woo off so that they can then say, okay, time to cut Medicare, time to cut Social Security, because we have to pay for those freaking tax cuts. Oh my God, it's an endless spiral of gloom and doom for ordinary people. Meanwhile, every single one of us is a prop in their little play. We're all to be used and abused. We're all to be exploited. We're all to be lied to. We're all to be manipulated and twisted into various positions that suit their purposes. You can't have a Dropbox, though, because somebody might bomb it. Johnny in Texas.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hi.
You know, when Marco Rubio was up on that debate stage, he was transmitting not-so-covert orders to the Republican volunteers and minion out there, like the brown shirts, to go ahead and act out on getting back at libs by setting fire to ballots in drop boxes. So here's how we fix his wagon. We go ahead and spend his taxpayer money, which he hates that we do, and we install the machinery that only will accept thin pieces of paper, like an envelope. You know, like when you feed your ballot to a machine?
Right.
That kind of feeding technology. So there's no big, wide open box, like when you go to the post office.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's an idea. Just one. You would think in 24 years, maybe little Marco would have thought about something to offset his mad Dropbox bomber theory. Yeah, we're all Kaczynskis to him. Oh, man.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Nom, 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 nom.
You're weird. He is weird, but cute. Gross.
Mary Anderson?
Yes?
I have a warrant for your arrest.
Arrest for what?
Penal Code 243 violation. Unlawful termination of a pregnancy.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
That is my personal business.
That's for the courts to decide, ma'am. Your medical records have been subpoenaed, and Dr. Landry's already in custody.
No, my God, you can't just...
You will have to submit to a physical examination.
What? By who?
No one's touching
Sir,
my wife.
Ma'am, turn around.
Oh my God.
Put your hands behind your back. Now.
Why is this happening? Love you, honey bear.
We're just enforcing the law here.
Elections have consequences. Vote Democrat on November 8th. Start
Stop Republicans from criminalizing abortion everywhere. Protect women's rights and freedom.
Please don't do this. Please.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from the free country of America. So when Marco made his little proclamation last night that Val Demings is the extremist on abortion, oh, how we laughed at the Rhodes household. Oh,
the extremist on abortion in this campaign is Congresswoman Demings. She supports no restrictions, no limitations of any kind. She voted against she's against a 4-month ban. She voted against a 5-month ban. She supports taxpayer-funded abortion on demand for any reason at any time up until the moment of birth. That's what she supports. That's the extreme position here. I have shown a willingness to work with people to save unborn innocent human life. She opposes any limitation of any kind, and no one ever asks them about that.
Congresswoman Demings.
Senator, how gullible do you really think Florida voters are? Number one, you have been clear that you support no exceptions, even including rape and incest. Now, as a police detective who investigated cases of rape and incest, no, Senator, I don't think it's okay for a 10-year-old girl to be raped and have to carry the seed of her rapist. No, I don't think it's okay for you to make decisions for women and girls. As a senator, I think those decisions are made between the woman, her family, her doctor, and her faith. And to sit over or to stand over there and say that I don't support abortions up to the time of birth is just a lie. But to help protect the life of the mother, which you looked at that like it was just, that's kind of a side issue. Senator, you know that you have said you don't support any exception.
I mean, it's so bizarre. And they're trying to say that people like me who believe that, I have the right to privacy in my own body, people like me who I have the right to, I've told you I had an ectopic pregnancy. I had no idea I was pregnant. I passed out on the kitchen floor. I got ambulance to the emergency room. This was in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And, I found out I was pregnant, and they said, call somebody because you got 10 minutes and you'll be in the ER. No, they would let me die. They would let me die. And what was I, 23 years old? 23? Just die, right? Because we need government so small that we can shove it into your vagina is what we need. So small you can drown it in a bathtub, except for me, except for women, except for this issue. Then we want the vagina police right along the voting police. I mean, what is wrong with these people? What is wrong with them? And taxpayer funded? Really? Whose abortion was ever taxpayer funded? Who? I mean, unless you elect Herschel Walker and he becomes a U.S. Senator, then when he writes you a check, you could probably say it was taxpayer funded. Only because his salary will be paid by the taxpayer. And next time he pays for an abortion, it'll come out of a bank account that had taxpayer money in it. That's the only way you get there from here. You understand? The Hyde Amendment, it prohibits any government funding of abortion. We had this whole freaking debate about why should government health care pay for Viagra but not pay for contraception? For asking that question, Sandra Fluke was called a prostitute by Rush Limbaugh, who demanded to be able to see sex tapes of her so that he could get his money's worth if he was paying for her contraception. The mental gymnastics you have to do to be part of this group of psychos is just legion. It's legendary. It's epic. Epic. Just live and let live, everybody. Can you not do that? Can you not just, mind your own damn business, basically? A woman never, ever wakes up 2 days before she's due and says, I changed my mind. It doesn't happen. The only time a late-term abortion is done is to save the life of a mother because the pregnancy is not viable, because the baby has died in utero, and the woman may be turning septic, or because there is such a malformation that the baby will suffer and die, or live for minutes or hours in screaming agony. That is not for you or Marco Rubio or Ron Death Sentence or Donald Trump or any Republican or any legislator to weigh in on. It's so bizarre. Taxpayer-funded abortion up till the moment of birth. I mean, do you really think we are that stupid, Marco? Really? Did you stand on that stage and actually peddle that swill right alongside exploding drop boxes that you couldn't figure out what the caller immediately was able to figure out? If you're scared of bombs being put into drop boxes, then make the drop box only accept thin ballots. Thin mint? I don't know why I thought of that. Mike in Oregon.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
Longtime fan, huge fan. But I'm so sick of people saying that the Democrats aren't doing anything.
Oh my God.
I'm so sick of the far left fact that, like, the far left quote unquote progressives saying that the Democrats aren't doing enough. I'm so sick of people not understanding civics and not understanding how the math works when it comes to two different houses of Congress and how they're built to be checks on one another, so that the Senate, even though it needs to be completely reformed, the Senate was built to be a check on the House. And the House can be pushed so far left if people actually voted for it. I'm sorry for ranting here, but I'm so sick of people only complaining about AOC on the quote unquote far left, whenever up until just recently Schumer's been a weakling. I'm so sick of people complaining about Pelosi whenever Schumer's been a weakling, because he can't pull the caucus together. And even though the math is the math, Schumer needs to step up, and people just don't focus where they need to focus. I don't get it.
Give us two more senators, because the two that we have that aren't progressive at all, Sinema and Manchin, they're the impediment to actually making the kind of progress that progressives might be happy with, but I doubt it. They'll never be happy. They're miserable little miscreants is what they are. But, you know, a lot of them are posers, too. They went so far to the left that they're on the right now, and they see the money. They see the money, and that's what they're about, money.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Did the president wait till now to make this major push for what he says will be a post-election call for a fast track on abortion rights nationwide? Because the House passed it in the fall after Texas, the Senate failed to win the vote in the spring. Why didn't the president really push for that last fall when outrage over the draft opinion showed the handwriting was on the wall?
Well, the president has been a very strong supporter of a woman's right to choose. In your preview, you said, why is he waiting until after the election instead of doing it now? We don't have 60 votes in the Senate.
Hello?
If we could get two more.
You don't think he could have pushed harder on the Senate last spring?
You think we would have gotten 10 Republican votes? Huh. You think we would have gotten 10 Republican votes? Oh, come on. You know, let's with all due respect,
okay.
The fact is we need to get two more Democratic votes to push back the filibuster, and therefore be able, with 51 votes, to enshrine Roe v. Wade into the law.
I don't know what goes on in the cables. I really, I mean, Andrea Mitchell, you would think, could do math, right? You would think that math is something that factors into vote counting in the Senate before you ask Nancy Pelosi about the Senate, where she doesn't work, and why the president didn't push harder, as if there was, I don't know, a chance that you could find 10 Republicans to codify Roe into law? The reason why you have to wait till after the election is we have to hold our breath and hope and pray that what we're seeing in places like Georgia, where early voting is shattering all previous records, people are showing up to vote like crazy to protect their rights. And we just have to hope and pray that enough Americans understand everything that's on the line. If the economy is your concern, let's say you don't give a damn about, privacy rights. Oh, how they're going to abuse you. But let's just say you don't care that your daughter or your granddaughter will have less rights than you did or your wife did or your sister did, right? Let's just say that that's not a thing for you. You just don't care if rights just poof disappear overnight after 50 years of being able to rely on the right to privacy in this country. Okay, let's say you don't care, and all you care about is the economy because you're having a tough time. Everybody gets that. I think everybody understands that when you can't pay the bills or when you can't make the rent or when you can't pay the electric bill, you can't pay your phone bill, whatever it is, that becomes everything in your world. I get it. I get it. So maybe that's your issue, and you think that voting for this one or that one is going to help you pay those bills. You couldn't be more ridiculously wrong. Okay? You couldn't be more wrong if you think that voting for a Republican is going to help you pay your bills. You're insane, actually, if that's your thought process going into this thing. But let me show you why. The Republicans, when they had the majority last time, okay, prior to 18, in 2016, when Donald Trump was the brand new president and they had the House and the Senate, the only thing they passed in 2017 was a tax cut for the top 1%. It cost you and me $2 trillion is what it cost, because they never paid for it. And they just added it to the tab, which now we're paying the interest on. Okay. That said, they had a reason to want the economy not to implode, okay? They had a reason to not crash the economy. They had a reason not to hold the economy hostage with the debt ceiling crap that they did when Obama was president. Remember that? And we actually saw our credit rating as a country get downgraded for the first time in the history of this country because the Republicans wanted to punish Obama. Well, that would be the same exact situation that we would be in if you voted Republican based on your concerns about the economy. Why? Because we have a Democratic president. And if they had the House and the Senate, trust me, they have no incentive to want to see the economy work. They have every incentive to blow it up, to make it worse for you, so that they can win the White House back in 2024. And that is how ridiculously power hungry they are. You are a prop. That's all you are. This is why they put people on airplanes and send them to Martha's Vineyard. This is why they had, 20 people arrested in Hillsborough County after they were sent voters' registration cards from the state twice. It was props. They were props. They were tools to be used in their campaign. That's it. And they will crash this economy so fast you won't even be able to say, check, please. Trust me. And everybody knows that. Now, if you're not still working and you are retired, then the next thing that you need to look at is their position on Medicare and Social Security. Do you know that they want to put a work requirement into Medicare and Social Security? Did you know that? So that you could be working well into your 80s? I mean, are they insane? This is what they're talking about. They're literally saying, well, we can't just continue down this path to keep spending and adding to the debt, said California Republican Kevin McCarthy, who wants to be the leader of the House to crash this economy. I mean, honestly, they're the ones that actually put trillions of dollars on the credit card. They're the ones. They're the ones that said COVID was a hoax. They're the ones. He said, quote, "We're not just going to keep lifting your credit card limit, and we should seriously sit together and figure out where can we eliminate some waste. Okay? They're talking about holding the debt limit, which is not new spending, as you know. The debt limit is the amount of money that the United States can borrow. It is a cap on that number. It has nothing to do with new spending. They have everything to do with new spending. They are always spending money that they don't pay for. Democrats are always, what's the pay for? What's the pay for? What's the pay for? We always include pay fors. In fact, the American Rescue Plan had pay fors. It actually paid down the debt. Paid down the debt. The debt limit is simply the total amount of money that the government is authorized to borrow. That is what it is. And they want to hold it hostage so that they can insist that they can cut Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. That is what they want. They want to cut Social Security and Medicare benefits, military salaries, interest on the national debt, tax refunds, and other payments. They're going to blow up this economy. Blow it up. To make Biden look bad. Biden must fail. This is why there are no vote on everything, including, we had a bill the other day for mental health care spending in schools to prevent school shootings. And they were no. They were no. We had a vote to lower the cost of prescription drugs for Medicare, to save Medicare money, to save Medicare billions of dollars in money because they pay for prescription drugs. And they were a no. They're a no on everything. Why? Because whatever Biden is for, they're against. Period. End of story. That's it.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
He talked about pharmaceuticals. He voted against legislation that would help reduce the cost of prescription drugs and help cap the cost of insulin.
I mean, this is who they are. They're, like, who is against capping the cost of a 100-year-old drug called insulin that literally costs $10 to manufacture a month's worth, and then you're paying $1,000? Only a Republican would be able to say, vote no for that. You have a problem in schools, right, of school shootings, and they're not interested in, anything to do with raising the age, for purchase of a semi-automatic, weapon that has very little recoil, that shoots as fast as you can press that trigger, and you can still stay, aimed at your target because the recoil so low. Honestly, and they're not for that. They're not for raising the age of that. So we say, all right, let's talk to you about it in a different way. Let's try and get some mental health care in the schools so at least we can flag the kids that feel isolated. We could flag the kids that feel bullied. We could flag the kids because there is, a common theme with the kids that actually go back to their schools and shoot up their schools. They feel rejected. They feel lonely. They feel like their parents hate them. They feel like the girls hate them. They feel like, the boys hate them. Let's do some. No, we're a no on mental health care. All right. Well, how about you're from Florida? Let's do a disaster relief bill. Let's actually just bank that money so that when a hurricane comes and slams into Tampa, we're ready to go. I'm a no on that too. Really? So do you really think that they are interested in shoring up the economy or doing something about it? Inflation, as you know, is global. It is the result of two things, and two things only. It's the result of low supply due to supply chain breakage and demand returning to its normal pre-pandemic level without the supply, hence prices go up. And it's also about gouging. Biden today laid out a plan for to release 15 billion barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, right? And he also laid out a plan to buy back barrels of oil to replenish the Strategic Oil Reserve, right? And then he started to discuss, the price of rice. Then he started to say, and you need to consider this, not just the profits, which are, humongous. They are oozing. They are gigantic profits, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. being taken by big oil and gas companies only to buy back their stocks, not even to invest in, more refining, not even to invest in more exploration, not even to invest in more, extraction. No, they're just buying back their stocks with these obscene amounts of profit that they're taking from you in the midst of a war in Ukraine, Putin hoarding his gas and giving it out to friendlies, Iran teaming up with Russia, who are also oil producers, right? And they're gouging you. They're gouging you like beyond belief, beyond belief. But he also said the way that you could know that that's true is look at the price per barrel. The price per barrel has gone down. The price at the pump globally has not. In America, it has. Because we have a president who gives a rat's ass and is releasing millions of barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Okay? And so he's trying to explain this to you today. And the Republicans couldn't give a damn about. They're like, yeah, we want high prices. We want things to implode. We want Americans to be tapped out. We want Americans to be stressed out. We want Americans to pay through the nose. And then we're going to, put little stickers on the gas pump going, Biden did that. No, they're doing it. They're doing it. Why? Because they're not interested in a windfall profits tax. Now, if you had a windfall profits tax, then the incentive to have windfall profits would be lessened, right?
Today, I'm announcing a plan to refill the...
Oh, not that one.
Consider this. In the second quarter of this year, profits at 6 of the largest producers, publicly traded oil companies, were more than $70 billion. That's $70 billion in just one quarter, 90 days, $70 billion.
Oh, my God.
So far, American oil companies are using that windfall, the windfall of profits, to buy back their own stock, passing that money on to their shareholders, not to consumers. In fact, in the first half of the year, those same companies spent $20 billion buying back their own stock, and most importantly, buying back the most significant buyback in the last almost a decade. That's great if you own a lot of stock in an oil company or if you're an executive in an oil company. Puts a lot of money in your pocket. That is how you get paid. But it's not the case for the vast majority of Americans paying at the pump.
Right. And so $70 billion in profits per quarter. Per quarter. Okay? That's almost $300 billion in windfall profits that they're taking in the midst of all of this global hardship. Okay, this is what they're doing. And $20 billion of that they use to just simply buy back their stocks. It is obscene. It's obscene. And then he went on to show you that the price per barrel is down, but the price you're paying at the pump is not.
When the cost of oil comes down, we should see the price of the gas station at the pump come down as well. That's how it's supposed to work. But that's not what's happening. In the past 2 weeks, the price of oil has fallen $4 a barrel. And you think, and thanks in large part to the steps we've taken this year, the price of oil has fallen nearly $40 a barrel since mid-June. That's a 30% drop in the price of a barrel of oil. But guess what? Gas prices haven't fallen that much. And it's not right. Gas prices at the pump should be lower. In fact, if retailers and refiners were earning the average profit they've made over the last 17 years, Americans would be paying at least 60 cents less per gallon for every gallon they buy. Say it again, 60 cents less for every gallon they buy.
The Republicans love this. Love this. They blame the man who's explaining to you how windfall profits are taken and how you're being gouged. They blame him for the gouging. It's just like, wow. Wow. No, they have no interest in helping you. They have an interest in holding on to power, retaking power. And what do they want to do with it? steal. What? What do they want to steal, Randy? They want to steal your Medicare trust fund. They want to steal the Social Security trust fund. And they would like to redistribute that money to the very wealthy, to the corporate, to the rich. Why? Because they get kickback. It's called oligarchy, everybody, and that's how it works. You have to kick back to the people in power. And the people in power want the kickback. That is corrupt. That is not democracy, but it's what they are for.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy told Punchbowl News today that Democrats have been mishandling Ukraine aid. And if they lose the majority in the House, quote, I think people are going to be sitting in a recession and they're not going to write a blank check to Ukraine. So what implications could this have on the battlefield if Republicans regain control of the House and slash military aid?
Yeah, I think it is very significant comment by the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy indicating, what we can sort of see, which is there is a flank of the Republican Party, the sort of pro-Putin, pro-Trump flank of the Republican Party, the House Freedom Caucus, which would essentially be owning Kevin McCarthy were he to become the speaker. He would be basically dependent on maintaining their goodwill in order to keep his position in power. There's, they basically pushed out the two previous speakers in some ways, and I think he would be very vulnerable to this. So it would be a major political shift. I think you can look for the Biden administration to try to put through more aid to Ukraine in a lame duck session if it comes to that after the election, if Republicans do indeed win the House. But I think it could, really underscore Putin's strategy of buying for time, hoping that the coalition, the political coalition to oppose him in the West, frays at the edges.
Oh, my God. They are so pro-Putin that they would actually pull the humanitarian aid, the military aid that we're sending over to Ukraine. They would literally do that. Look, this is why Donald Trump wanted to break up NATO. You understand? Donald Trump kept screaming about NATO sucks, NATO is bad, NATO is, whatever. And when Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, they said, the Republicans did, that it was because NATO was on Vladimir Putin's doorstep and it was upsetting to him. Oh, my God. So there's a lot at stake. The economy, yes. Privacy rights, of course. But even our position in the world as being a defender of democracies, a defender of free peoples, that's also on the line. I mean, think about who Russia's aligned with. Russia is part of Iran now. I mean, the Iranian, what do you call those things? Drones. The Iranian, kamikaze drones, which are really flying bombs. That's why they're called kamikazes. They don't come back, right? They just detonate themselves. That's where the drones are coming from. They're coming from Iran. Iran will do anything to be on the other side of any contretemps in the world where America is on the opposite side. Well, that's how you have to think of Republicans. They're on whatever side is opposite of people, of Americans, of families, of your economic prowess, of your ability to vote, of your ability to make your own choices in this life. They're against all of it. All of it. They want power and control. Power and control. And that's it. For what purpose? To enrich themselves. Period. End of story. It's always money. It is always the root of all evil. And they are the evilest of all the evil. Okay? Because they see money in the what? They're like little, the Medicare trust funds, like chum in the water. They're like sharks, man. And the money that's sloshing around the Medicare trust fund, the money that's in the Social Security trust fund, that is chum for them. They can't wait to bite your freaking head off so they could have that money. It's very sick. It's very sad. But it's who they become. It's what they keep showing you they are. They keep telling you and showing you who they are. They keep gerrymandering and suppressing votes and purging voter rolls and saying you can't have a drop box because somebody might, put an explosive in it. I mean, just so far-fetched. Oh, we can't raise the age to own a Uzi in this country because, Second Amendment. What? What? Really? Yeah, everything is, we could pass as many laws as we want, but only, law-abiding people will follow the laws. That means criminals can get away with criminal. No, it doesn't mean that. You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous. And you think we're gullible and stupid. What a fiesta bowl of bizarre worldo, these debates have been. I mean, it's been so completely obvious how they've managed to, snake their way through these debates, just lying. I mean, and some of these races, like here in Florida, like Georgia, it's close. It's close. Yeah, Nevada, it's close. I mean, Laxalt's own family, Nevada, 14 of his relatives put out a statement saying he doesn't deserve and should never be a senator. His own family. It's like Paul Gosar's family, too. They said the same damn thing. And people are like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I'm MAGA. Well, I'm sane. Okay? You could be whatever you want, but I'm going to be sane. Sean in Pennsylvania.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
When are Democrats going to quit playing softball with these Republicans? And actually, it was good to see Val Demings come out and go after Rubio.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm here in Pennsylvania, and we got two of the worst candidates running for office, and the Democrats are being nice to them.
Who?
Dr. Oz and Mastriano.
And you think Fetterman's been nice to Oz? You don't think Fetterman's been, trolling Oz as hard as any maggot ever thought about trolling us?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I just think they're taking it too easy on them.
Well, let me put it to you this way, okay? It's time now for the people, right? The candidates are the candidates, and they have done their very, very level best to let you know who they are, what they're for, and, how they would vote on your behalf. But MAGA is out there trolling guys like you, Sean, and it's time for you to stand up and play hardball with the maggots. How's that?
Hey, I like it.
Okay, good. Johnny in Florida.
Did you say maggots or MAGA?
Maggots.
Gotcha. Anyhow, I was calling because I am trying to figure out why it hasn't been done already, considering that Joe Biden recently shocked me and brought up the marijuana issue. And why don't they get behind every Democrat, all line up, and in unison get behind finalizing whatever they have to finalize to do whatever they have to do, and they can call it legalizing it or whatever they want. Truth, facts, and shame have no bearing anymore anyway. So why not just get together? That's something that people should remember. They can't remember, and they don't care about anything that has more
well,
than
I
one or two
disagree with you.
lines in
I
it.
think people remember getting $300 checks for each kid they had just recently. I think they remember PPP. I think they remember, I think they remember COVID, and I think that they know now that the COVID is endemic, not pandemic, and they can get on with it. I think people understand this.
I hope that's true, but I have a lot of really well-educated, very bright friends that they're getting all of their information from, an alternate fact universe, and they really don't know about any of this, and they don't.
Well,
really
the marijuana
find out.
issue, honest to God, they won't remember that either if they smoke.
Well, there's a whole generation of stoners that
don't remember. That's why they don't remember the $300 check they just got. That's exactly why.
But they'll get off the couch to legalize their pot finally.
Well, I think
really
all of them
believe that.
have their little medical marijuana cards, and they all go to the dispensary, and they all purchase, okay?
It may not matter, but I think it would get their attention. And at this point,
I think they go and buy it anyway. They just don't remember that they went and bought it.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but if it were just thrown into the mix, and they all got behind it and said, look, we're all.
You know what, Johnny? I don't think there's one millennial in this audience or one Gen X or one Gen Z person, not that they can vote, but that thinks that marijuana is illegal. I don't think there's anybody that thinks marijuana is illegal. I don't think there is.
There's a lot of older folks that have waited a long time to hear it.
And they go to the dispensary. That's where they go. Again,
I don't disagree. I don't think most truth, facts, and shame don't apply anymore.
What does that have to do with true facts and shame?
Because
they're going to the dispensary and purchasing as much pot as they want. In Colorado, you can buy as much as you want for recreational. You can buy as much as you want. I mean, you can go from dispensary to dispensary if you had the money to do it. I think what you're suggesting is that we make it free. Well, I got news for you. It won't ever be free. You know why? It takes a long time to grow. It's a very work-intensive crop. I know. I just harvested mine. I probably grew I shouldn't even say $2,000 worth. No, I don't think marijuana legalization is the key that unlocks the door to this. People have to wake up and understand that the Republicans have no incentive to make a good economy for you while Joe Biden is president, and vote for Democrats who do, who will. That's what you need to know.
Mary had a little lamb. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I have been very clear that sorry, and that I have made mistakes. But the right thing to do in those circumstances is to make changes, which I've made, and to get on with the job and deliver for the British people.
Mr. Speaker, the only mandate she's ever had is from members opposite. It was a mandate built on fantasy economics, and it ended in disaster. The country's got nothing to show for it except the destruction of the economy and the implosion of the Tory party. I've got the list here. 45p tax cut, gone. Corporation tax cut, gone. 20p tax cut, gone. 2-year energy freeze, gone. Tax-free shopping, gone. Economic credibility, gone. And her supposed best friend, the former Chancellor, he's gone as well. They're all gone. So why is she still here?
Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter. I have acted in the national interest to make sure that we have economic stability.
And then she quit.
I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but I know that it's more fun to be a British politician than American. That much I know.
Parliament is great. The question and answer is there. That is the best government that you'll ever see. C-SPAN carries it. It's an amazing thing. But Prime Minister's question and answers is what that's called, in case you're ever looking for it. I am not a quitter. And then she quit.
We have breaking news from London. The British Prime Minister Liz Truss has just announced that she is stepping down after just 44 days in office. I want to go to James Longman in London. James.
Yeah, hi, George. Just a few moments ago, Liz Truss came out in front of 10 Downing Street to resign as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. It makes her the shortest-serving Prime Minister in British history. She gave a very short statement. She said she recognises she cannot deliver the mandate on which she was elected. She says she's now told the King, and there's going to be a leadership election in just the next week. Normally, they would take many, many weeks, but she says she wants it to happen as soon as possible. She'll remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. But all this started started with the so-called mini budget, her tax plan to cut taxes in this country. But that, and you in the United States have been dealing with inflation. We in Britain have as well. It made Britain an outlier because when you cut taxes, you cause inflation to go up. And so every single financial organization around the world was saying to Britain, don't cut taxes so quickly. It caused a market crash. The pound crashed. Mortgage rates started to soar. So many people across Britain are now seeing hundreds and hundreds of dollars added to their mortgages. So the pressure just grew on Liz Truss. And in the end today, she had to come out to give this statement. The big issue, though, for the Conservative Party and for this country is that no one really knows who's going to be able to replace her. There are a number of names in the mix, including, I have to say, Boris Johnson, who's currently on holiday and on vacation at the moment in the Caribbean. But certainly a very dramatic day here in the United Kingdom. It will do something to settle the markets, one hopes, but certainly politically, Britain is still in a bit of a mess because we need to now find another Prime Minister, possibly the fifth Prime Minister in just 6 years.
How about Donald Trump? How about that? Hey, take Herschel Walker, please. So Liz Truss lasted 44 days, 45 days. It felt so much longer, didn't it, everybody? Didn't it feel much longer? I'm not a quitter. I quit. This is the shortest serving prime minister in the history of Britain, in British history. Shortest. They did have one guy 200 years ago, 1827. I learned this from listening to, odd British facts this morning. George Canning. Yes, good old George. George Canning died in office in 1827. The previous record for the shortest serving British Prime Minister was George Canning, who served for longer than she did, 119 days in 1827. He only left office because he died. He perished, which is a lot less embarrassing than what just happened to Liz Truss. Now, why are we bringing this up? Because you need to make a note of it, conservatives. That is conservatism at its finest, and it always fails. It is fantasy economics. It is voodoo economics. It is trickle-down economics. It is all those things. What did she do? What did she want to do? What was she promising to do? Lower taxes for the wealthy. And guess what happened over there? Guess what happened? I mean, they have inflation that makes our inflation look stupid, okay? Their inflation is through the freaking roof over there because this inflation thing is global, But she decided that the answer to inflation was to cut taxes, which I told you yesterday has an inflationary effect. Why? Because inflation is a result of supply and demand being out of whack. Meaning when demand is up and supply is down, you get inflation. And because supply chains were broken and are still broken because, Beijing is still under 100% COVID lockdown. They're still doing their no COVID policy in China. And Beijing literally has millions of citizens that are still in lockdown, complete and total lockdown, because President Xi, Donald Trump's friend, heard there were 11 cases of COVID in Beijing, which has 21 million people in it. And so he started this lockdown again. Anyway, supply chains are freaking broken. And because of conservatism in this here country, we have outsourcing of our supply chains, right? So when their supply chain over there breaks, we lose supply. But we came out of COVID. COVID is now endemic, not pandemic. Good luck to us this winter. There's lots of stories out there that we're not done. But okay, let's just deal in the moment with where we are. Demand is back up. Supply, not so much. Hence inflation. So what does Liz Truss and the conservatives say that they want to do? Here, too, the GOP is telling you what they want to do. If they take back the House and the Senate, they want to pass, they want to make the 2017 tax cuts permanent. They want to continue to lower taxes for the wealthiest. That's exactly what she just did. And what did it do? It was unfunded, just like here, unfunded tax cuts for the wealthiest Britons, okay? It made the stock market freak out. It made the bond market freak out. The pound crashed against the dollar, and so did her approval ratings. But see, over there, they have some shame, see, and we don't. See, over there, when you fail, you resign. Over here, when you fail, you say the election was rigged. I mean, it's just like unbelievable. But this is an amazing thing. Since she took office in September, she was. Can I just say, I always thought she was cursed. I think I even said it after the Queen died. After Elizabeth, may she rest in peace, long live the Queen, died. Didn't I say that it was weird that Liz Truss had just met the Queen and that like 48 hours later, the Queen was not with us anymore. She was perished. She was gone. Yeah, so, they should have known then that in addition to whatever else she was bad at, she had very bad luck. Liz Truss did. So at this point, they're saying just about anyone could end up being their prime minister. I suggest, and they're invoking Boris Johnson, who resigned in absolute, scandal-ridden shame. I think his whole cabinet resigned, right? And that's why he left and then went on vacation to the Caribbean. But they're floating his name. Can I just say, why don't we do this? Okay. Why don't you take Trump and we'll take Boris? I mean, Boris would have to be elected here. Trump, they don't elect their prime minister. They don't have. They could have a general election. They could force a general election, but they don't have to have one until 2025 over there. Do you know that? The party elite pick their candidates and their prime minister.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
There was a debate last night between the current governor of Oklahoma and a Democratic candidate who would like to replace the current Republican governor of Oklahoma. Now, I will tell you that Joy Hoffmeister is really a Republican. She's always been a Republican, but she switched parties so she could run against, Kevin Stitt, who said he would sign every single pro-life bill that came across his desk and did, so that, there's absolutely no health care for pregnant people in Oklahoma, none. And Oklahoma seems to be awash in crime and guns and all these things. And so she decided that she was going to run as a Democrat in Oklahoma against the Republican governor of Oklahoma.
So let's talk about the facts. The fact is the rates of violent crime are higher in Oklahoma under your watch than in New York and California. That's a fact.
Well, we'll have that fact checked by the Frontier Superintendent.
It's also a fact that medical marijuana...
Oklahomans, do you believe we have higher crime than New York or California? That's what she just said.
Safety and security is my top priority, and it will be as governor.
Is she right? Yes, she is. She's absolutely right. 100% correct. Joy Hoffmeister, the former Republican who's running as a Democrat, she's actually a centrist Republican, but there's no space in the MAGA party for moderate Republicans, okay, for centrist moderate Republicans. So she had to become a Democrat in order to get on a stage to debate this miscreant, Kevin Stitt, who said, "Can you believe she's saying, beautiful prairie land Oklahoma is somehow worse than crime? Do you believe that?" Yes, it is true. Here's the numbers. The crime rate in Oklahoma increased to 458 per 100,000 people in 2022. It is among the top 10 states to record the highest crime in the country. It is number 6. Number 6, according to World Population Review's state-wise crime record data. New York has 363 incidences of crime against every 100,000 New Yorkers. California has 442 incidents of crime per 100,000 residents. Respectively, it's 363, 442 versus Oklahoma's 458. So yes, crime is worse in Oklahoma. Now, why would that be? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong when you just, are awash in guns? Do you think gun crime would go up if there were more guns? Why? That's counterintuitive if you're a Republican. If you're not, more guns equaling more gun crime seems very intuitive. It seems like any person in leadership would understand that's true, would understand that's the cause and effect, would understand that you are literally putting people in jeopardy of gun crime if you're awash in guns. So anyway, I just thought I would point that out because check this out. In Oklahoma, even though she is a Republican, and I think people in Oklahoma, I don't know, I can't speak for Oklahomans. I would hope that Oklahomans know that she's really a moderate centrist Republican, not a Democrat. But I don't know if they do or not. I have no way of, polling. Oh, don't say polling and Republican in the same sentence because the ick factor with this next story is very high with this one. Okay. But it's a 1-point race. It's a 1-point race between her and Stitt. Do you understand that? There's a person who is identifying as a Democrat on the ballot who is within 1 point striking distance of the incumbent Republican governor, Kevin Stitt. Just thought I would throw that out there in case you are listening to us in Oklahoma. And I know we do have some listeners, some viewers in Oklahoma. So it is true. It is true what she said there. And it is true that it's within 1 point between a Democrat and a Republican in the Oklahoma's governor's race. That is insane. It is now a top battleground state. Can you believe that? Oklahoma is a top battleground state. All right, so let me just show you why conservatism never works. Okay, case in point was Liz Truss there. Truss, what a name. Liz Truss, who, just resigned in abject failure. And, she should be, resigning in shame. Everything she proposed to do failed monumentally, because giving people more money, even if it's just the wealthy people, giving tax cuts, unfunded tax cuts to very wealthy Britons has an inflationary effect. And the banks and the bond markets and, the people of Britain, everybody understood, everybody felt it, everybody knew it. And it only took 45 freaking days for the whole thing to just implode, actually, is what it did there. Okay. So when you go vote, I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to understand that the Republicans here are one-trick ponies too, and the only trick they know is tax cuts. That's it. And if they did that here, if we actually let the House turn to Republicanism, to conservatism, to Trumpism, after this next midterm election, we're so cooked, okay? We're so cooked. But I need to show you this race in Arizona because couple things about Arizona that were just so strange yesterday. First of all, Kari Lake decided to do a Black Voices symposium. And of course, when you think Black Voices, you have to go to a barbecue joint, which is just so horrific. But that's where she went. She went to a barbecue place in Arizona, and she decided that she was going to tell voters in Arizona that if Martin Luther King and JFK were alive today, well, according to QAnon, JFK is alive today. Yeah, and he's advising Donald Trump. So is RFK. They're all alive. You understand. But anyway, she said that if they were alive today, they would be MAGA. They would be part of the MAGA movement. They would be all about Trump, which is such a violation and an insult of the memory of both of those men, simply because Martin Luther King believed in the decency, in the character and integrity of immigrants. Okay, right there, they're not even in the same breath. I mean, you couldn't. And JFK and MLK, when it comes to voting rights, I mean, does she even realize she's an election denier who is trying to make it harder for people to vote, let alone people of color? I mean, they're so bizarre. They're just so weird. But then also in Maricopa County yesterday, there's a guy who's running for the county community college governing board. Okay, basically the college school board. His name is Randy Kaufman, and he just decided that he can't run for that position. He can't run for that job. Do you know why? Okay, whatever it is he did, which I will tell you after the break, he did 2 weeks ago. It's just becoming clear to him 2 weeks later that he shouldn't be running for school board. Yeah, wait, this is the GOP. This is who they are.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. I'm a true believer that if MLK, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., were alive today, if JFK were alive today, if our founding fathers were alive today, they would be America First Republicans. I really believe that.
Well, then there's something wrong with your belief system, because there is no way in the world that Martin Luther King Jr. would be part of MAGA. That's just ridiculous. That's as ridiculous as Kanye West has been, okay? This is just off the chain, I mean, she is so strange. She is so bizarre. And who's sitting there next to her? Tulsi Gabbard? Really? What is going on in this state? I mean, this is unbelievable. But she did this yesterday as a black outreach symposium, and like no black people were there. So she had to actually get some black people. Her aides, her staff actually had to recruit actual black people who were in the audience to stand behind her at a subsequent news conference in which she declared that her opponent, Katie Hobbs, is the racist. What was this about, that she was trying to prove she didn't go full white nationalist on us? I mean, what was that about? She has said some of the most disgusting things. She said more than half the black babies are aborted in New York City. That is just not true, okay? That has absolutely been debunked 8 ways to Sunday, okay? She talked about the decimation of black families. She did her customary, degradation of critical race theory that's being taught in school. She condemned Black Lives Matter rioters as being a threat to blue lives before January 6th. I mean, honestly, this is just so... the ads that are running have, very, very black faces and mugshots claiming that, to try and insinuate that black people commit more crimes than white people, which is just, it's wrong. It's not true. It's untrue. It's false. I don't know what else to say to get that through people's heads. But she actually decided that JFK and MLK would be MAGA? Are you insane? These are people who believed in the dignity of each and every human, that people, should be able to vote freely, openly, without, being told they had to count soap bubbles or without a poll tax. I mean, I don't understand. I really don't. But staying in Arizona, this guy, oh my God, his name is Randy Kaufman. Randi. Thanks, Randi. Thanks for sullying the great name of Randi. He is a Republican candidate in Maricopa County. He's running for the school board, the college governing board in Maricopa County. And yesterday, he suspended his campaign. Okay, he didn't file the papers. So I just want you to know, Randy Kaufman's votes will still be counted, and Randy Kaufman's name will still be on the ballot. However, 2 weeks ago, this was yesterday, he suspended. 2 weeks ago, on the 4th of October, Randy Kaufman was arrested for masturbating in his pickup truck in the parking lot of a community college right down the street from a daycare center where young children were playing in the street. Let that sink in for a brief moment, okay? These are the people that want to call everybody a pedophile. These are the people that say that Democrats are somehow indoctrinating your children, that we are sexualizing your children. And here you got a guy sitting in his pickup truck, literally. Children are playing outdoors at a nearby child care center. And when the cop pulled him, the cop didn't have to pull him over. The cop walked up to his truck and said, "Do you know why I'm standing here?" He said, This is the conversation, I swear to God, between the officer and Randy Kaufman. This is it, word for word. Officer, when you look around here, what do you see? Mr. Kaufman, the child center. But I didn't notice it until you came up and I got out of my truck. Are you going to put that in the report? The officer then responds, don't you see how alarming that is, that there are children nearby? People are riding their bikes passing your truck. They're in cars where they can look in and see what you're doing. Mr. Kaufman, I effed up. Officer, why are you here in this parking lot? What brings you down here? Mr. Kaufman, I live in Buckeye, but I came out here to buy rebar. How manly. Nearby. I was stressed and just pulled into the lot. Officer, do you know what you were doing is an offense? Randy, yes, I do. Mr. Kaufman was endorsed by the Maricopa County College's Police Officers Association. That is the union at the police agency that arrested him. And then he had the temerity, the nerve, with his pants down around his thighs, okay, and his hand upon his thing. He had the nerve to say, can I say something off the record? And the officer said, okay, you can. Go ahead. Tell me. I know Officer Jim Hill. He works with you guys, and I'm running. I'm running for the governing board of colleges. So not only did he get caught with his panties down around his thighs outside of a child care center in a parking lot where people were riding their bicycles and passing him and could see what was going on in his truck feet away from a child care center, which he says he didn't notice until the officer walked up to his truck. But he also tries to sort of bribe the officer by telling him, you know Jim Hill, he works with you. He knows me. He knows me. He can vouch for me. The F is going on. And his name will still be on the ballot. He has not filed the proper papers to have, his votes not counted. So while it may be too late to remove his name from the ballot, the idea that they are still going to count his votes is simply because he has not, the Maricopa County Elections Department has not received an official statement of withdrawal from Mr. Kaufman. And so without the signed and notarized document, he's still an active candidate and his votes will be counted, which means he could freaking win. You understand that? The Democratic opponent is State Representative Kelly Butler. Kelly Butler, please. Thank you, Arizona. Thank you, Phoenix. Thank you, Maricopa County. Kelly Butler. I just, you read these things and you see them over and over and over and over. Pedophiles. I mean, you see the guys that worked on the Trump campaign had to resign, right? Because they were pedophiles. You see them everywhere. And of course, it's always projection. It's always projection with them. Yeah, it's the Democrats that are sexualizing children. It's the Democrats that are indoctrinating children. It's the Democrats who are pervy and weird. It's the Democrats who have sexual yearnings and leanings toward children. And they're just getting arrested one after the other, after the other, after the other. Holy crap.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
From gas prices to new jobs and abortion, this week President Biden is going all in on those issues. When asked Wednesday about his focus going into the election, he said there are multiple issues at play.
Just hoping to clarify for midterm voters, top domestic issues, inflation or abortion.
All important. Unlike you, there's no one thing.
Today, the president is heading to Pittsburgh to tout the billions of dollars he signed into law for rebuilding the nation's infrastructure. He will revisit the site of a massive bridge collapse,
Mr. President,
which he toured back in January on the day the disaster unfolded, with Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor and Democratic U.S. Senate candidate John Fetterman. This evening, the two will meet again in Philadelphia for a fundraiser. Republican challenger Dr. Mehmet Oz wants Fetterman to stay linked to the president, too, blaming inflation on both of them.
On the issue of inflation, John Fetterman does not believe Joe Biden spent enough money.
Oz has also questioned his opponent's health after he suffered a stroke in May.
I genuinely hope that there was not a doctor in your life making fun of your circumstances.
Fetterman released a letter from his doctor Wednesday that says he is recovering well with no work restrictions.
Yay. So Biden did go to Pittsburgh today. He will be in Philadelphia tonight. And obviously, investing in the United States, building infrastructure in the United States, building semiconductor factories, microchip factories, this helps inflation. Not only does it create jobs, but it also makes it so that our supply chain doesn't have to be over there. You understand that? Manufacturing jobs are coming back to the United States because we're incentivizing manufacturing jobs to come back to the United States. New manufacturing plants are opening, new jobs in solar and wind energy manufacturing are coming here. Semiconductor chip factories are being built here. We got an Intel factory that's being built in Ohio. Our infrastructure is being rebuilt. All of this ends our supply chain problems and creates millions of good jobs. And the Republicans are against spending money like that. They would rather spend money on tax cuts for the wealthy so they could buy back their own damn stocks, which create no jobs, creates nothing here that would relieve us of having to go over there for supplies because we don't have supplies here. I mean, this is insane. This is just they are madmen, and I hope that the only reason why we talked about Liz Truss today, because you won't remember her name next year. I probably won't either, because 44 days I'm actually gonna load up my my personal Rolodex with her name and stats and that she was the shortest serving. No, I couldn't care less about her. What I do care about is seeing the results of this crazy fantasy economic fable be rolled out over there first. And you can see what happened in an inflationary spiral when you actually cut taxes for the top wealthy, for the top 1%. That's what you should learn. That's what we should understand from Britain. What we need to do here, and I hate to say this because there are people that are going to recoil in horror, but what we need to do here, Joe Biden understands. Joe Biden gets it, okay? Joe Biden is actually passing legislation with a half of like an arm tied behind his back because we got a 50-50 Senate and like a 5-seat majority in the House, and still we were able to do an infrastructure package. Still we were able to do, the American Recovery Act. Still we were able to do the CHIPS and Science Act and start building microchip factories here. Still we were able to do the Inflation Reduction Act, which drives down the cost of prescription drugs, actually allows Medicare to negotiate with Big Pharma, and it also invests in clean, renewable fuel so that it incentivizes, jobs in solar. It incentivizes jobs in wind energy and manufacturing, the whole 9 yards. So we have somebody who understands it. We have a party that gets it. We have a party that understands that if you pair the CHIPS and Science Act, if you pair the Infrastructure Act, if you pair the Inflation Reduction Act with a trust-busting act, with an act that actually says, we need more competition in our marketplace, not less. We need trust-busting in big oil. We need trust-busting in big ag, right? Why? Why would we need that? Well, if there was more competition for food stuffs, if there was more competition for meat, if there was more competition for oil, if there was more competition for sources of energy, as a category, then they would have the big oil and gas companies would have an incentive to keep prices low, because you, as the consumer, would be making the choice. You would have the choice. Do I want to power my car with electricity? Do I want to power my house with solar? Do I want to try and power my house with wind? Do I want to try and power my house with oil? Do I want to try and power my house with natural gas? What do I really want to do? Well, you don't have that choice, okay? That's why trust busting. Competition keeps prices down, not up. When there's no competition, artificial prices are what you pay, right? Meaning the oil and gas companies that are making record profits. We went over this yesterday, $70 billion a quarter, not a year, a quarter. And what are they doing with $20 billion of that? Buying back their own stocks. Are they incentivized to keep their prices competitive or low or something, that you would agree to? No, because you have no choice, you see. You have no choice, which is why Biden is talking about the dual tracks, saying, hey, yes, oil and gas is a thing. And we need to, actually go ahead and, repair these broken refineries. Like Toledo, Ohio, there's a broken refinery there. You understand that. In the West, there were refineries that were offline for repairs. They're now back online, which is why you may have noticed in the west of the Rockies, gas prices have come down like 30 cents. Why? Because the refineries are back online. So Biden, has an incentive. The Democrats understand that there is a need for oil and gas, but not to the exclusion of solar and wind, not to the exclusion of renewables, not to the exclusion. But, oil and gas would like it to be. Same thing with Big Ag, okay? Big Ag doesn't want competition. They don't want people, getting into the, meat packing business. We found this out during COVID, that there were, six meat packing plants in the United States? I mean, shipping, if we had more choices in shipping, healthcare, real estate companies, they're all making record profits over the last 2 years. If we could crack down on two things, gouging and get some antitrust legislation so that there was real competition in the marketplace, things would actually be cheaper for you, for me. Republicans have proposed zero ideas on either of those fronts. They are not interested. The other thing that could be done that Democrats would do and can do and want to do and did do, but then the Republicans tried to, end it, was the child tax credit. I mean, if you had two kids, you would get the $600 that you were getting. You would still be getting it, but the Republicans aren't for it. They don't want that, okay? The Democrats will fight for the child tax credit. They won't even have to fight if they have the majority in the House and Senate. You understand that. So then all of a sudden families get $600 for two kids to help pay for the groceries, to help pay for the gas, to help pay for the housing that the real estate market has cornered. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. They're buying rental units now. Big giant investment companies are buying rental units now so they could raise the rent. And Democrats are on the opposite side of that debate. They are saying, you know what, we want to tax wealthy corporations and millionaires who are paying little or nothing right now in taxes. We want to raise them to 15% minimum tax, or we want to actually collect, what is appropriate for somebody who is making, billions of dollars, so that we can afford and pay for a child tax credit, which we know took 50% of our kids out of poverty. They are not into it. They're not into problem solving, okay? You know what's happening that just passed? Well, it didn't pass. It's going to happen because of inflation, but it won't happen till next year. Yeah. Seniors are going to get the biggest increase in their Social Security payments in over 40 years. Medicare premiums are going down for the first time in 10 years, and drug costs are going down because Democrats passed a law that forces Big Pharma to negotiate with Medicare. And Republicans are talking about ending Social Security and repealing Medicare because they can't figure out how to pay for it. They can't figure it out. Well, step aside, move aside, have a seat. sit down and shut up already, okay? Because we do know how to fix things. We do know how to solve problems, even when the problems are global.
Mary had a little lamb. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me, help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Former President Donald Trump could still be in more legal jeopardy after a court ruling in California. A federal judge says Trump signed a legal document under oath claiming voter fraud in the 2020 election, even though he knew those claims were false. District Judge David Carter pointed to 4 emails that appear to show Attorney John Eastman knew Trump and other Trump lawyers were submitting inaccurate numbers of allegedly fraudulent votes to federal courts. Eastman was one of those advising Trump at the time. The judge wrote it was part of an effort to delay the counting of electoral votes by Congress on January 6, 2021. He ruled those emails must be given to the House Select Committee investigating the assault on the Capitol. Carter is the same judge who claimed back in March that Trump, quote, more likely than not, broke the law trying to overturn the 2020 vote.
Oh, my God. I mean, you know, the conversation in this country could be about courts and judges and findings and rulings and decisions and crime fraud exceptions and conspiracies and violence and coups, bloodless and bloody guns, and or it could be about solving our economic problems. It could be about building infrastructure. It could be about building chips factories. It could be about creating jobs. It could be about renewable energy. It could be about oil and gas prices. It could be about refineries. Or it could be about conspiracies. It could be about QAnon. It could be about white Christian nationalism. It could be about anti-Semitism. It could be about courts and more courts and depositions and being under oath and rape and grabbing women by the P word. And you're going to have to decide. You're going to have to decide in 19 days. In 19 days, what in the hell do you want to talk about for the next 2 years? Seriously, it's where we are. Do you want to talk about how women are reduced now to property? Do you want to talk about anti-Semitism coming from the likes of Kanye West and weird platforms, you know, like Parler and Gab and even Chris Cuomo's show where they're interviewing Kanye? I mean, do we really want to talk about MAGA for another 2 years? Do we really want to talk? Because Donald Trump's going to die in prison. He just is. What Judge Carter found in this particular decision is astonishingly accurate, and it is defrauding the United States. It's literally what he found was that there was a conspiracy to defraud the United States by lying, not just to the public, but by lying to the court, by submitting false documents. Documents Donald Trump knew to be false. Claims of voter fraud that Donald Trump knew was a lie. Claims of voter fraud that were easily debunked. There were, he submitted claims on Georgia that said that there were over 10,000, I think he had 10,315 dead people voted in Georgia. That is patently false. That did not happen. It never was. There was no evidence to support it. Donald Trump was told it wasn't true by John Eastman, okay? And he decided to file that claim with the court anyway in order to use the courts to delay the certification of the election. He tried every way to Sunday to keep himself in power, every single thing. And the reason why the emails aren't protected, even though Eastman is a lawyer and Donald Trump was the president, is because of the 3 words that I have been saying to you over and over and over again since before the election coup. And that was crime, fraud, exception. There is a crime, fraud exception in this country, meaning if a lawyer and a client are conspiring together to commit a crime or a fraud, and in this case, there's both. The crime is obstruction of justice. The Actually, the crime is defrauding the United States of America. The crime, fraud, no, I got it backwards. Okay, the crime is the obstruction of justice. The fraud is an attempt to defraud the United States out of the results of a free and fair election. Okay, so there's a crime, fraud exception, and the crime, fraud exception applies here. Because Eastman, the lawyer, and Donald Trump, the client/president, were conspiring to commit a crime and a fraud against the United States. And that is what the judge found. Now, this is the same judge who earlier ruled that it was more likely than not that Donald Trump participated in criminal activity. And now that he has the emails and he was allowed to see the emails, he not only ruled that Donald Trump did commit a crime and did try to defraud the United States, not only did he enter a conspiracy to do so with the lawyer, but the lawyer's documents are not protected as attorney-client privilege documents because they conspired to commit crimes and frauds. And I knew that, and you knew that. We all intellectually understood that. But here we have the actual decision. This filing was yesterday, and Judge Carter concluded from the collective documents that he was allowed to see that Trump's legal team currently make clear that President Trump filed certain lawsuits. I'm quoting him. It makes clear that President Trump filed certain lawsuits not to obtain legal relief, but to disrupt or delay the January 6th congressional proceedings through the courts. Eastman wrote that Trump signed paperwork for a lawsuit in Georgia. Okay, this is Fani Willis's case here, right? This is the cherry on the cake of the case she's already made, and obviously she already has the president on tape calling the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, telling him to find him votes that he didn't get. But this is the cherry on the cake of the Georgia lawsuit because it says on December 1st. They filed the lawsuit in Georgia, but Eastman wrote a letter, he wrote an email to Donald Trump saying that he has been made aware that some of the allegations in his first proclamation about fraud in Georgia are inaccurate. And he wrote to Trump, don't sign the lawsuit, don't sign the lawsuit because the lawsuit is inaccurate. But Donald Trump and his attorneys filed the complaint anyway. They knowingly filed a false complaint with the court. You can't do that, which is why Rudy Giuliani never said that there was election fraud in court, ever, ever. He said it to the public. He said it on any platform he could get, but he never filed anything with courts that provided any accusation of fraud because there wasn't any. There wasn't any. And everybody knows that. But Trump signed a document, a legal document, under oath, attesting to the court in Georgia that the numbers, quote, are true and correct to the best of his knowledge. And then the judge in this case was permitted to see the emails between Eastman and Trump. And when he saw the emails between Eastman and Trump, he saw the email where Eastman was telling Donald Trump, don't file that lawsuit. It's inaccurate. There was no fraud. There were no dead people voting. We can't substantiate any of these claims. None of these numbers are right. Don't file a lawsuit. And Donald Trump filed it anyway. Filed it anyway.
The ruling that came down an hour ago, quote, 4 emails demonstrate an effort by President Trump and his attorneys to press false claims in federal court for the purpose of delaying the January 6th vote. The emails show that President Trump knew that the specific numbers of voter fraud were wrong, but continued to tout those numbers, both in court and to the public. The court finds that these emails are sufficiently related to, in furtherance of a conspiracy to defraud the United States.
Oh! Crime, fraud exception. That's why we're all now able to see that what we always knew, that Trump knew he was lying, that when Trump shook down Georgia, when Trump called Raffensperger, when Trump said that there was fraud in the election, and he still says it, he still does. He responded to this judge last night and said it was a nasty ruling, and this judge doesn't know me. No, he knows what you filed.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
What this is a smoking gun in Georgia. Because if you look at what the judge describes here at the of these emails, is they file a lawsuit, a state court lawsuit in early December, December 4th, making various allegations about dead people voting, about felons voting, about unregistered voters voting. And by the end of December, they're aware that these allegations are false. And that's the email that the judge quotes here, one of the emails, where Eastman says, the president has since been made aware that some of the allegations have been inaccurate. And then they go and they make him, the lawyers go and they have him file a federal lawsuit where where Trump certifies under oath, verifies under oath that these allegations were in fact true. And that's perjury, and that's certainly evidence of federal crimes. But remember, when Eastman makes this statement, it's December 31st. What happens 3 days later, 2 days later? Trump makes the call to Raffensperger. He makes that famous recorded call, infamous recorded call, when he's asking Raffensperger, demanding Raffensperger, threatening Raffensperger if he doesn't, to find exactly 11,780 votes, one more than he needs. This is a smoking gun for the prosecutor in Georgia. And the Georgia investigation is very advanced. This is going to be a very important document and exhibit in the charges that I'm sure she's going to bring.
Yeah, me too. I mean, so this is where we are in American history. Okay, we can continue to talk about the criminal Trump. We can continue to talk about the criminal Eastman, the criminal Flynn, the criminal Bannon. We can continue to talk about all of this and all of them, and let them suck all the oxygen out of the room while we forget to solve real problems that we truly have. Let the courts solve the problem of Donald Trump. Let Fonnie Willis in Georgia in Fulton County, let the DA there solve the problem of Donald Trump. Let the DOJ solve the problem of Donald Trump. Monday in New York, a tax fraud case against the Trump Corporation actually begins. Just one tax fraud case. This is the one with Weisselberg. Okay, with Eric Trump and Jr. named as defendants. And Weisselberg, who took, I don't know, $1.7 million worth of, apartment payments and Mercedes car leases and other gifts and things, then concluded that he was due a tax refund because he didn't declare any of those things as income, which you need to do. The only thing you're allowed to take from your employer that you don't need to declare is like free coffee. Okay. Everything else, your employer's paying your rent. Your employer is paying your car payment. You need to report that as income. Just a little note to the, the wise out there. Okay. But on Monday, Weisselberg, who pled guilty to doing this, under his plea agreement, has to testify against the Trump company. He has to testify against Eric and Jr. Now, Donald isn't named in this particular case. This is the criminal case. You know that there's a civil case with regard to inflating the price of, his properties when he needs a loan and deflating the price of his properties when he's paying taxes on them. That's a separate case. That's not even this one. Now, we could sit here and talk about the multitude of yesterday, he had to go be deposed in a rape case where he defamed the rape victim, E. Jean Carroll. I mean, I'm so sick of him. I'm so tired of having to talk about this man's criminal behavior and not solve our problems, which are extremely solvable. They are extremely legislatable. We can do stuff, big stuff, amazing stuff, and benefit ourselves in these crazy global inflationary times. When you look at the inflation rates in like France, I mean, there's a huge article today in the New York Times about how since Russia invaded Ukraine, which is also adding to the price of gas and oil and everything else, but also wheat, flour, wheat is smashed and they turn it into flour, and flour is used to bake breads and cookies, all right? Okay, but since Russia invaded Ukraine, the price of wheat that France gets and grinds for flour, for their flour mills, has increased by 30%, and the price of bread. This is like the French Revolution was literally fought over the price of bread. And France remember Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake? That's what she was referring to, because bread was too expensive. Oh, well, let them eat cake. Off with her head. So they're acutely aware of needing to solve these problems in Europe. I mean, the bill for electricity to run these flour mills has tripled in Europe. The price of paper that they use for the sacks that they put the bread loaves in, the flour sacks, that's hit the stratosphere. And people are being gouged. I mean, inflation in Europe is getting so bad, so bad. The data that was released yesterday showed that consumer prices rose at the most rapid pace in September, climbing 11% in the European Union, 10% in Britain. The cost of food is 16% higher in the European Union, more than 14% in Britain, and energy prices in both places have risen 40%. So when you look at America and you see our gas prices coming down, when you see that we have policies in place to put money in people's pockets, to take the cost of prescription drugs down for them, to lower the Medicare insurance premiums for seniors, okay? All kinds of things happening here that isn't happening there, not happening there. And you see the kinds of governments that they have, conservative ones, and you see them giving tax cuts to the wealthy as a conclusion to the inflationary spiral that the European Union is in, that Britain is in. You understand how that's a mistake and how America is dealing with it better. There's a global crisis thanks to Russia's invasion and COVID, and our supply chains being over there and our dependence being over there instead of over here. And Biden and the Democrats want to bring back our supply, want to bring back choices, want to bring down the price, want to open up the refineries that were offline, want to do all kinds of things to help us weather the storm. And people are out there going, you know, I think the Republicans are better on the economy. I just want to, like Nancy Pelosi, I just want to punch you, and then I'll go to jail and I'll be happy. Inflation is off the charts over there, okay? Off the charts. Bread, the price of bread has never been higher in France, where they're very famous for their bread, baguettes, etc., okay? It's up 20% from a year ago. That is the fastest rise on record, according to Eurostat, which is Europe's statistics agency, for grain, for oil, for fertilizer. And here, 15%. So there, 40%, 30%, here, 15%. Who has better leadership? I wonder. Hey, let's hire Liz Truss.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
This is Stacey Abrams.
Inflation is a global phenomenon, but the pain is local and real. So you don't deny what people are feeling, but then you explain what a governor can do. This governor has refused to address the cost of housing. He has said that he doesn't want to upset investors by giving local governments control over helping control housing prices. I want to make sure they have the help they need. He says that it's okay because he doesn't want to upset these investors, that 30% of housing units in Georgia have been purchased by out-of-state equity investors. I have a plan to solve that. He doesn't really talk about the issues that we're facing in healthcare. We're losing a level 1 trauma center. Georgia's going to be down to 4 level 1 trauma centers for an 11 million person population, one for the entire metro Atlanta area. And he won't do a thing to solve the problem by expanding Medicaid. So I talk about if you need access to health care, it's going to be more expensive under this governor. We've already lost 6 hospitals with his leadership or failed leadership. And so you take the big issues and you let people understand what a governor can do to address it. I'm the only candidate talking about need-based financial aid so middle-class families can send their kids to college without going deeper into debt. Those are the issues we have to talk about. And to the points you were making earlier, we have got to lean into the resources that federal Democrats have delivered to Georgia, that hardworking Georgians have delivered to themselves to create a $6 billion surplus in our state. My plan is to invest that money back into our communities, back into our families, back into our small businesses. My opponent wants to give it away as tax cuts to the wealthy.
That's all they ever do. Tax cuts for the wealthy. Because the wealthy are their donors. That's why. That's why it's a little, revolving door, a merry-go-round, a circle jerk, whatever you want to call it. That is what the Republicans are into. It is. Just pass the tissues, everybody. Lubriderm. Seriously, and here we are talking about solutions to try and ease the suffering that is being visited upon Americans who are working their tails off because of the global inflationary spiral that we are in. Yes, it's global, but yes, there are things that Americans and American leadership can do to ease the pain. And this is what Biden did immediately upon taking office. The American Recovery Act, child tax credit, everybody started getting checks. Well, the Republicans turned to those checks and said, this is why there's inflation, which is a lie. It is a lie. That is not why there's inflation. Inflation is a global phenomenon. It is the result of COVID. It is the result of broken supply chains. It is the result of lack of competition. It is the result of a war in Ukraine. It is the result of gouging on top of all of it. And we can do something about it. And very serious people understand our serious dilemma. And they have done something about easing our ride through this torrential storm of a cluster F that the world has engaged in here. You know what inflation is in Hungary, in Viktor Orban's white nationalist Hungary? Do you have any idea? 77% from a year ago. 77%. The cost of a loaf of bread, just to keep it nice and simple, in Hungary, in Tucker Carlson's hero's country, Hungary, Viktor Orban's white nationalist Hungary, is 70% higher this year than it was last year. That's inflation in Hungary. 77%. Croatia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Slovakia, price of a loaf of bread is up 30%, but in Viktor Orban's Hungary, 77%. Decent governments are trying to relieve the pressure that is being placed on their citizenry through no fault of their own. Here you have Stacey Abrams showing you a plethora of things that just a governor of one single state could have done, can still do, but doesn't do, with a massive surplus in his coffers. A massive freaking surplus, billions of dollars in surplus in Georgia. And he's letting hospitals close. He's letting trauma centers close. Really? That's the best that Brian Kemp can do? That and try and suppress the vote by purging voter rolls and ending drop boxes? Because, Marco says you could throw a bomb in a drop box, and then what happens? You have a country that the Republicans love, that is threatening the world with nuclear weapons, that is threatening bread and using bread as a weapon, that is threatening freezing out Europe, letting them die in the icy, freezing, frigid, cold European winter, to win an occupation of his neighbor. And the Republicans are okay with it. They're down with it. Ron Johnson is cool with it. Mike Lee went over there by himself to, have a little sit down with Vlad and tell Vlad, don't worry, America's got you back. Go take what you want. Go conquer, go take. I mean, it's just a bizarre autocratic, wet dream that they got going on over there. And they don't give a damn about you. You could suffer. Nobody cares about you in the Republican Party.
We have a governor who doesn't care, he won't help, and he spent 4 years attacking our freedoms, weakening gun laws, banning access to abortion, denying access to elections. I'm running to give people more money in their pockets, more opportunity in their communities and their small businesses, and more freedom in their lives. Let's talk about elections, for example. We know that there has been this remarkable attempt by Republicans to equate what I have said to what Donald Trump has said. A tin-pot dictator tried to say that he gets to win because he wants to. What I have done for the last 4 years is lift up access to the right to vote, because I know what it means to be told you don't have the right to be heard. I actually faced an obstacle to being able to vote, but I had the knowledge and the wherewithal to fight back. But imagine if you don't. Imagine if someone tells you your voice doesn't matter. And so I've spent the last 4 years filing lawsuits to ensure future access to the right to vote. I did the work of rallying people and letting them know that their efforts were not in vain, telling them that they made progress. And I went across this country saying that voter suppression is a threat to our democracy. And it's real. You just saw what they did in Florida. Yes. And what's happening here in Georgia. A homeless woman in Forsyth County was challenged under Brian Kemp's new law and told that she couldn't vote, and then was denied a provisional ballot. They did that on purpose because we know that Joe Biden won by about 11,000, 12,000 votes in Georgia, 7,000 of which were cast through provisional ballots on Election Day. They know what they're doing, but they're trying to distract us with false equivalence and reductive arguments. And so my job is to remind people of not only what's at stake, but who's in charge. What Brian Kemp has done for the last 4 years, the last 12 years, is do everything he can to limit access to the right to vote. And I am rallying our people to understand that their voices matter. And if they turn out and show who they are, we can win this election.
We can if you show up. And Georgia, I have to say, I don't know how people are voting because you don't get that kind of information. Okay, vote is still private for 5 more minutes, I guess. I mean, privacy is just not a thing anymore, especially for women, but you know. But the turnout in Georgia, the early turnout, is surpassing the 2020 presidential election turnout. I mean, it's breaking all kinds of records. People are eager and active, and they want to vote, and they want to vote early. Here in Florida, you saw what they did with, those poor people who got voter registration cards from the state, and then years later they went and Ron DeSantis had them arrested.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
While abortion is an issue, it nowhere reaches the level of interest of voters in terms of the cost of gas, food, bread, milk, things like that. What can a governor, what could you do as governor to alleviate the concerns of Georgia voters about those livability, daily, hourly issues that they're confronted with?
But let's be clear. Having children is why you're worried about your price for gas. It's why you're concerned about how much food costs. For women, this is not a reductive issue. You can't divorce being forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy from the economic realities of having a child. And so it's important for us to have both and conversations. We don't have the luxury of reducing it or separating them out, but we also have to talk about what a governor can do. A governor can address housing prices. A governor can address the cost of education. A governor can put money into the pockets of everyday hardworking Georgians instead of giving tax cuts to the wealthy. That's what I talk about on the trail, and that's what's resonating. But let's not pretend that women, half the population, especially those of childbearing age, they understand that having a child is absolutely an economic issue. It is only politicians who see it as simply another cultural conversation. It is a real biological and economic imperative conversation that women need to have.
She's brilliant. She's right. She has the benefit of being correct on her side. And Mike Barnicle, what are you sitting there? What are you, 70, 80? What is Mike Barnicle now? I mean, and I don't want to be ageist. Look, I'm old, okay? I keep telling you I'm old. But these 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old men telling women that having a family is not an economic issue. It's not up there with the price of oil. It's not up there with the price of bread. It's not. Why do you think we care about these things? Because when we try to plan a family, I mean, what's one of the first things that families do when they have a child after, all the sweating and worrying about it being, healthy and okay, and the head is round and the cradle cap is soothed and the umbilical cord is cut. The first thing you start doing is putting money aside for college, or putting money aside for, a house, or trying to figure out where's the best school. We have to move to this zip code, or we have to move there. What's with these old freaking non-childbearing ancient men telling women what's important? Shut up. Carol in Washington.
Hi.
Hey.
Randy. Hey, I'm putting out a plea to some of the people like Taylor Swift and Oprah and these other people that have large followings. Get your women in gear. It isn't going to matter about the price of bread when we don't even have the right to leave our homes or drive. This is serious, and I'm really worried.
Well, Oprah is going to sit down with Stacey Abrams, I think, next week, and only I would know that because I'm an Oprah file. I'm an Oprah fan, huge Oprah fan.
What about Taylor Swift?
I don't know Taylor Swift.
She's got a large following, and if there's anybody out there that knows her or anybody else that knows her, women put Trump in the White House. Women can put Democrats back in charge.
Well, Rock the Vote has some really good stuff going on with the old people ad. I love that ad where they said, we always vote. Have a bunch of white old people on the commercial, and they're all sitting there and they're saying, maybe you could post a meme about it, or maybe, but we'll vote. We'll vote. And the older people say, we vote in every election. We vote in primaries. We vote in school board meeting. We vote all the time. But you won't. You won't. Challenging young people to show up. I don't know. I have a funny feeling that, 18 to 34s who usually are a little lax about their voting habits will vote in this one. I think they will, because this entire removal of choice and privacy and healthcare rights, abortion rights, it has to be front and center for them, because they are the most sexually active, except for the villages in Ocala, Florida, where the seniors are giving each other STDs every day. I think the most sexually active outside of them are the 18 to 34-year-olds. And I think that they understand that they have a stake in this. They have listen, this is part of the reason why, Joe Biden made studentaid.gov live before the election, so that kids who went to school, kids who did it right, kids who paid for themselves, kids who took out loans, kids whose parents took out loans, could now go to studentaid.gov and apply for some debt relief, so that they could one day own a house, so that they could one day move to the zip code where the schools are good. And speaking of good schools, see, this is the thing in Oklahoma. This is why this woman who's running against a Stitt is very popular. This is why she's running as a Democrat against the Republican Stitt, who has signed every single anti-choice bill that came across his desk, to the tune of there's a complete and utter ban in Oklahoma on reproductive services. Just a ban, okay? And this woman who switched parties from Republican to Democrat to run against him is the head of the State Board of Education. And she is trying to tell the people of Oklahoma who are concerned that Oklahoma is always at the bottom, right along with Alabama, right along with Mississippi, Oklahoma, at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to education. And she's running to bring awareness to the fact that Stitt doesn't believe in public education. He wants to give people vouchers, and they should find, education elsewhere. It's going to end up costing people money to educate their kids if it privatizes education, and nobody's going to have that money, and this is part of their plan. The dumber you are, the happier Republicans are. The dumber, and that's why they don't want history taught. Because if you knew history, you wouldn't repeat it. That's all. That's all. That's why History is taught, so you don't repeat it. This is why, I'm looking at, the price of bread around the world, and I'm telling you that the French Revolution is going to happen again. This is all baked into the conservative cake. This is all baked into their ideology of autocracy and oligarchy and taking away democracy by sowing doubt about whether or not it can produce results for you. That's what this is. It's what conservatism is. It's what autocracy is all about. It's what oligarchy is all about. And they're all down. They're in. We're not. We're Americans. Bill in Arizona.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, Bill.
There's something rotten in Arizona.
Oh.
I'm going to have to write your name in to oppose Debbie Lesko because there's nobody opposing.
Go ahead.
Debbie
Write me in. If I win, I'll move there. I will move to Surprise. I will.
Yeah, well, I got a beef with Surprise, but that's another story.
Well, isn't that her district? Doesn't she represent Surprise?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm in the neighboring town.
Right.
And she's my
Well, look at the people you guys send to the United States House of Representatives and to the Senate. Just would you please check yourself? Gosar's entire family came and tried to tell you that this man was a white supremacist, lunatic fringe dude who couldn't possibly have any righteous, power bestowed upon him. He would use it for bad. He was not trustworthy. Andy Biggs, too. You sent us that guy. Debbie Lesko, really? Stop sending crazy people.
I was so disappointed. I went to my mailbox to get my voters' information. I looked up to see who was opposing Debbie Lesko, and there was nobody.
Right.
I'm broken hearted.
Well, it's Arizona. God love John Kelly, for having the nerve to put his name.
Can I tell you something about John Kelly?
What?
Mark Kelly.
Mark Kelly. Sorry.
When John Kyle held the seat, I went to a meeting that Gabby and Mark were at in Surprise, Arizona.
Yeah.
At the end of the meeting, they took some questions. My question was to Captain Kelly. I asked Captain Kelly if he would please consider running for the seat currently held by John Kyle. He said he'd consider it.
Well, now he's running, so apparently you made a dent. Good for you.
I guess I did.
We owe it all to Bill. Bill in Arizona, who lives next door to Surprise, which is a problem.
Can I say something about abortion real quick?
No. I will tell you this, though. One of my best friends in the whole world, 40 years I've been friends with Rhonda. She actually, she lives in California, but her and her husband, I love them, Steve, they had a little vacation house in Surprise, and when they saw how crazy it was, surprise, they sold it. There is something really strange going on in that desert, and it ain't UFOs, okay? Mark Kelly could tell you all about it, but honestly, stop sending crazy people to the United States Congress, Arizona. Oklahoma, pick a governor who gives a damn about your kids.